welcome back to Star Wars Lads. Today for you, I'm going to be continuing my kind of reading guide slash watching guide series that I started with Thrawn, and today we're going to be talking about Ahsoka. So I am going to be giving you guys the entire guide for Ahsoka Tano in Star Wars canon, how to watch everything that she has been in and read everything that she has been in. Popular characters like Ahsoka Tano have appeared in a bunch of different things in visions or flashbacks. Unless there is concrete story for her in those things, I have not included those references in those stories. So listed here for you are all stories that feature Ahsoka either as a main character or a piece of the narrative that actually furthers her story in the long run. Before we get started, make sure you're hitting that like button. It'll really help me out. Help this video get to about 50 likes. That would be awesome. Comment below. Let me know what you thought of this video. And of course, subscribe for more content like this. Hit that notification bell so you can be reminded immediately when our new content releases. This is going to be a very long list, so I will include which things I feel are absolutely essential for the character of Ahsoka. Obviously, if you're starting from scratch, you're welcome to read and watch all of these things. However, a lot of them just feature the character of Ahsoka, and she's not really a big part of them. So within this list, I will be detailing which ones I think are essential, so make sure to watch all the way through. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers as much as possible. However, just the nature of Ahsoka existing in a lot of this stuff and the fact that the Ahsoka show takes place at the end of all of the things I'm about to list does mean there are a bit of spoilers for if you wanted to start all the way from the beginning. However, I won't reveal exactly what happens in any of these stories. This is a guide for all of you who would like to catch up with the character. Alright, let's begin with the very first thing you would watch if you're trying to catch up with Ahsoka. You would watch the first episode of Tales of the Jedi, Season 1, Episode 1, called Life and Death. This is the Ahsoka origin episode. It tells about baby Ahsoka, tells about her discovering initially her connection to the Force. It's shorter than your average Clone Wars episode, but it's a nice little companion piece for the character of Ahsoka Tano. I would say this is essential Ahsoka viewing. After Tales of the Jedi Season 1, Episode 1, Ahsoka next appears in Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the film, not the television series. Ahsoka is introduced as Anakin's Padawan in this film, and really everything we know about the character all stems from this. This was her first appearance in any Star Wars thing ever. After that, we move on to the Star Wars: The Clone Wars TV show. Ahsoka is one of the main characters of the Star Wars: The Clone Wars TV show, so she is featured in a lot of episodes. The first episodes that feature Ahsoka in the television show were the episodes that made up the arc known as the Malevolence arc. This featured Season 1 episodes 2 through 4. I would say these are essential viewing for Ahsoka. In these episodes, we see her take on a leadership role, and she learns some valuable lessons about the cost of war. Next, she appears in the R3S6 arc, made up of Season 1, Episodes 6 and 7. In this arc, Ahsoka does learn some valuable lessons. She is one of the main characters, but I would not consider this essential viewing. Next, she appears in Season 1, Episode 9, Cloak of Darkness. Cloak of Darkness sees Ahsoka team up with Luminara Unduli and go up against Asajj Ventress. She appears in a smaller role in Season 1, Episode 11, Dooku Captured. You follow that up by watching Season 1, Episode 13 and 14, Jedi Crash and Defenders of Peace. After that, you would watch Season 1, Episodes 17 and 18, the Blue Shadow Virus arc. And then finally, Season 1, Episodes 19, 20, and 21, the Free Ryloth arc. Not all of these episodes feature Ahsoka, but it is best to watch all of them together to get the entire story for that arc. Then you would move on to Season 2 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Season 2, Episodes 1, 2, and 3, the Holocron Heist arc, feature Ahsoka and Anakin going up against Cad Bane. I would consider these essential episodes. You see a bit of the progression from Season 1 to Season 2 for Ahsoka as she continues to grow. These episodes also just present a major challenge for the character, and you start to see her grapple different situations a little bit more maturely. Next, if we're going in the correct timeline order, you would watch Season 2, Episode 17, Bounty Hunters, and you would follow that up with Season 2, Episodes 5 and 6, The Second Battle of Geonosis, which is followed up directly by Season 2, Episodes 7 and 8, The Brain Invaders arc. I would consider all 4 of these episodes essential for Ahsoka. Here we get to see her deal with the horrors of war with Anakin. We also get to see her team up with Barriss Offee, who is a recurring character in Ahsoka's life. Barriss is one of Ahsoka's best Jedi friends, and their friendship starts here, which is pretty essential for the rest of Clone Wars with Ahsoka. After that, you'd watch Season 2, Episode 9, Grievous Intrigue, and then the next essential episode I would recommend is Season 2, Episode 11, Lightsaber Lost. Season 2 does a lot to make Ahsoka a bit more mature than she is in Season 1. Lightsaber Lost is very essential to that arc. Here, Ahsoka's lightsaber is pickpocketed, and she teams up with the elderly Jedi Tera Sinube to try to find it. Then you would watch Season 2, Episodes 21 and 22, the R2 Come Home arc. And after that, you'd move into Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 3. Season 3, Episode 6, The Academy, features Ahsoka, as well as Season 3, Episode 7, Assassin. And then if you were continuing with timeline order, you would go backwards to Season 3, Episode 4, Sphere of Influence. I'm not going to quite classify these episodes as essential. However, Ahsoka does learn a lot of valuable lessons here. She's given roles in the war that exist outside of her apprenticeship with Anakin. She learns a lot of valuable lessons from a variety of perspectives, which ultimately shapes her quite a bit for the future. However, none of these episodes really contribute to the overall narrative that you have to have for the Ahsoka series, so I'm not going to quite mark them as essential, but they'd be in that next tier of highly recommended. Okay, now we shift away from Star Wars The Clone Wars, and we get into Forces of Destiny. Forces of Destiny was a micro-series that Disney was releasing on YouTube, initially focusing on the female characters of Star Wars in little 5-minute 2D animated cartoon segments. Ahsoka was one of the main characters of the show, and she first appears here in the timeline in the episodes Teach You I Will from Season 1, Episode 11, and The Imposter Inside in Season 1, Episode 6. Forces of Destiny is in no way essential. However, Ashley Eckstein did return to voice Ahsoka, and if you're interested in being a completionist for the character, you would check these episodes out here. Forces of Destiny also got a comic book spin-off. Ahsoka was featured in the one-shot issue Forces of Destiny, Ahsoka and Padme. This volume was written by Beth Revis. And if you're more into reading than watching these Forces of Destiny shorts, you can check out Forces of Destiny Daring Adventures Volume 1. It's a chapter book for children that adapts many of the episodes from Forces of Destiny. After you check those things out, you can move back into Forces of Destiny for Season 2, Episode 2, Unexpected Company, Season 1, Episode 12, The Starfighter Stunt, and Season 1, Episode 4, The Padawan Path. And again, if you want to wrap it all up with the adaptation in chapter book form, you would read Forces of Destiny Daring Adventures Volume 2. Let's hop back over to the Clone Wars here, where you would watch Season 3, Episode 10, Heroes on Both Sides. This is another one-off episode that features Ahsoka with a character that is not Anakin. This time she is with Padme. This continues the Bonteri storyline, which she ultimately becomes kind of involved with Lux Bonteri. Due to Heroes on Both Sides being the first appearance of Lux Bonteri, and the growth of Ahsoka and Lux's relationship, I would say Heroes on Both Sides is an essential Star Wars The Clone Wars episode. Again, if you're interested in reading adaptations of these stories, you can read an adaptation of this episode in the short story collection Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark. This episode is adapted in a story called Pursuit of Peace. After that, you would continue with Season 3 of the Clone Wars, watching Season 3 episodes 15, 16, and 17. This is the Mortis arc. The Mortis arc is one of the most essential things for Ahsoka you could watch in this season. Anakin is the main character of the Mortis arc. However, Ahsoka is important for the lessons he learns in the arc. But something happens here with one of the Mortis gods and Ahsoka that makes learning about their connection and her connection to Mortis very essential for what I think Ahsoka will be about. The Mortis gods are also quite important for many of the events in Star Wars Rebels, so you would want to learn about them in this arc. Next is Season 3, Episode 18, 19, and 20, the Citadel arc. In this arc, Ahsoka gains a bit more respect from her masters, and she's given a bit more of an important role in the war itself. I would also say the Citadel arc is essential. Season 3, Episode 21 and 22 are the final 2 episodes of Season 3 of the Clone Wars. This is the Padawan Lost arc. In this arc, Ahsoka is kidnapped by Trandoshan hunters. They drop her on a jungle planet and they hunt her down for sport. Again, you get to see Ahsoka take a a leadership role. You get to see her act without Anakin here. There's a lot of growth she has in this arc, and I would say it is essential for her character. Next, you would move into season 4, episode 1, 2, and 3, the Mon Cala arc. After that, we get to season 4, episodes 11, 12, and 13, the Slavers of Zygeria arc. I almost made this essential because it is very important for Anakin's relationship with Ahsoka. However, Ahsoka doesn't have a major arc in these episodes, so I will not be making them essential. After that, you would watch season 4, episode 14, A Friend in Need. This is an essential episode. This continues the relationship between Lux Bonteri and Ahsoka, a relationship that ultimately helps Ahsoka see the separatist side of the war. After that, you would watch season 4, episodes 15 through 18. This is the Racco Hardeen arc, where Obi-Wan fakes his death in order to infiltrate a bounty hunter staging ground held by Count Dooku. Ahsoka is in these episodes, but she's not an important character, and in fact, she only appears in episodes 15, 16, and 18. After that, you would move on to season 4, episode 21, Brothers. Again, Ahsoka does not have a massive role in this episode, so it is not essential. Then we would get into season 5. You would watch season 5, episode 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is the Onderon Rebellion arc. This arc features the first appearance of Saw Gerrera, a character who has continued in a lot of Star Wars canon, including Andor and Rogue One. It also continues the story of Lux Bonteri. I would consider these essential episodes. After that, you would watch season 5, episodes 6, 7, 8, and 9. This is the Gathering arc. In these episodes, Ahsoka takes an extreme leadership role, helping Jedi younglings build their first lightsabers. Of course, there are other hijinks that ensue, but these episodes show Ahsoka in a leadership position, as well as introducing the character of Professor Hugh Yang, who is going to be in the Ahsoka show. These episodes are essential as well. If you would like to read a version of this story, you can read Almost a Jedi, a stories in the Star Wars The Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark book. That story is an adaptation of the last episode of this arc, season 5, episode 9. And then finally, one of the most important arcs for Ahsoka in the entirety of Star Wars The Clone Wars, season 5, episodes 17, 18, 19, and 20, the Wrong Jedi arc. This arc not only sets Ahsoka forward into the future of the Clone Wars, but it's the seminal arc for her character in the entirety of Star Wars. Most of the decisions and mentality she portrays in later stories all come from the events that happen to her here. If you could only watch one Clone Wars arc, it would be this. However, the emotional stakes would not really hit as hard if you don't watch all of the other essential things that I recommended you watch. Ahsoka does not appear in Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 6, but you can catch back up with her in Season 7, episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8, the Martez Sisters arc. This was an arc that wasn't critically well received. Even though this is Ahsoka's first appearance in Season 7 of the Clone Wars, I would not say this is essential. If you'd like to see an adaptation of this arc in the Screen Comics format, you can read Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 7 Volume 1 Screen Comics adaptation. After that, you would continue with the next essential arc that I have here in the Clone Wars and the finale of the entire show. Season 7, episodes 9, 10, 11, and 12. The Siege of Mandalore. The Siege of Mandalore is the finale for the Clone Wars. It sets Ahsoka off into the direction that she'll be going in Star Wars Rebels, and it also just ends an incredibly emotional journey for the character across all 7 seasons of the show. This is absolutely essential to watch, but as a sidebar, it is best watched if you have seen a lot of the Rex stuff in the Clone Wars as well as the Maul stuff in the Clone Wars. We're not going to talk about those in this video, but if you want future videos about both of those characters, let me know and I can make a guide for them as well. Again, this arc was adapted into the Screen Comics format, and you can read it in Star Wars The Clone Wars Ahsoka vs. Maul Screen Comics adaptation. Now I recommend you go back to Tales of the Jedi. You can watch Season 1, Episode 5 here, Practice Makes Perfect. This episode takes place across the entirety of the Clone Wars, and the beginning of it technically starts prior to most of the Clone Wars episodes I have recommended you have already watched at this point. However, it ends near the finale of the Clone Wars, and in order to avoid spoilers for that, I would recommend you watch it after you've seen all of the Star Wars The Clone Wars episodes that Ahsoka is in. You would then watch the final episode of Tales of the Jedi Season 1, Episode 6, Resolve. This episode takes place after Revenge of the Sith and shows Ahsoka encountering an Inquisitor. I wouldn't say either of these Tales of the Jedi episodes are essential, but they are really good and they're quite short, so if you'd like to check them out, I would highly recommend you do so. Next, you can read Ahsoka by E.K. Johnston. Some of the canonicity of this book has been called into question, with some of the things mentioned here about the Siege of Mandalore arc, which ultimately didn't exist when this book was made, are not quite in line with how the story eventually unfolded in the show when it came out. There are also some moments here for Ahsoka that possibly could contradict what we see of her in Tales of the Jedi Season 1 Episode 6 Resolve. However, I will be listing this as an essential Ahsoka story. A lot of things and imagery we know about Ahsoka in Rebels and also the Ahsoka series come from this book, and I'd highly recommend you give it a read. After the Ahsoka novel, you can move into Star Wars Rebels. Before we even get into Star Wars Rebels, I'm just going to say right off the bat, I consider every single Ahsoka appearance in Star Wars Rebels to be essential to the character, especially since the Ahsoka show features most of the cast of Star Wars Rebels. I'm going to have to give away a minor spoiler here to talk about Season 1 of Star Wars Rebels, but just the fact that you know Ahsoka is in the show kind of gives it away already. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers at all about Season 1 of Rebels, it is again a bit of a spoiler about Ahsoka's role in Season 1 only, then feel free to skip to the next recommendation after the Rebels Season 1 section. Alright, so in Rebels Season 1, Ahsoka is known as Fulcrum. Fulcrum is an informant whose identity is not revealed until the end of the season. However, in order to talk about her appearances in Season 1, I have to talk about Fulcrum's appearances. So if you're following the Fulcrum part of Rebels Season 1, you would watch Season 1, Episode 7, Out of Darkness. This is Fulcrum's first appearance. Out of Darkness features Hera Syndulla and Sabine Wren undertaking a mission to an old asteroid base for the Republic, where they intend to meet up with Fulcrum, who Syndulla has been in frequent contact with for information about the Empire. Around Season 1, Episode 7, you can also get into Rebels Recon Missions. It's a mobile game that also features Ahsoka and Fulcrum. Next, you would watch Season 1, Episode 9 of Star Wars Rebels Gathering Forces. This episode again features Ahsoka as Fulcrum, but it mostly centers around the Inquisitors continuing their pursuit of the Ghost Crew, while Ezra looks to make a connection with the Force. You'd follow that up with Season 1, Episodes 14 and 15. This is the finale of Season 1. It's in these episodes that Ahsoka officially reveals herself as Fulcrum and joins the cast of characters in Star Wars Rebels. You can read a chapter book adaptation of the finale in Battle to the End. Star Wars Rebels Season 1 is also adapted into a manga webcomic, which you can also read. Again, this mostly features Ahsoka as Fulcrum. Alright, so the Rebels Season 1 partial spoilers are over, so hopefully you're joining us again here. After Rebels Season 1, you would watch Forces of Destiny Season 2, Episode 15, A Disarming Lesson. Then you'd move over into Star Wars Rebels Magazine number 12. There is a comic strip story called Ocean Rescue that features Ahsoka, Hera, and Sabine. Again, you'd bounce back over to Star Wars Rebels, this time starting with Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2, The Siege of Lothal. These episodes see the Rebels return to Lothal only to find that they have entered an Imperial trap. With Lothal under Imperial siege and the Empire on their trail, the Rebels must find a way to flee Lothal and return to the rebellion. Along their way, however, they will encounter Darth Vader. The Siege of Lothal is adapted in the chapter book adaptation Trapped. You'd move on to Season 2, Episodes 3 and 4, the Lost Commanders arc. This is the arc that brings back some of the clones into Star Wars Rebels, including Rex, Gregor, and Wolf. This arc is adapted into the chapter book A New Ally. Ahsoka next appears in Season 2, Episode 10, The Future of the Force. This episode follows Ahsoka Tano and the Ghost Crew as they investigate an unsettling plot by the Inquisitors to target Force-sensitive babies for abduction. It is also adapted into chapter book format in a book of the same name, The Future of the Force. Next, you would get to Season 2, Episode 18, Shroud of Darkness. This episode sees Kanan, Ezra, and Ahsoka returning to the Jedi Temple on Lothal, seeking to learn how the Inquisitors continually track them. Next is Season 2, Episode 20, The Mystery of Chopper Base. This episode sees the Rebels finally locate a potential site for a secret base, but their new home is not as isolated as they originally believed. After that, you would get to the finale of Season 2, Star Wars Rebels Season 2, Episodes 21 and 22. This is titled Twilight of the Apprentice. Twilight of the Apprentice sees Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka arrive at Malachor, a seemingly dead world and home to an ancient Sith temple. but they are not alone. As paths cross, destinies change, and fates are fulfilled forever. I know I said all of the Rebels episodes are essential, but if there are any Rebels episodes that are extremely important for the story of Ahsoka Tano, it is the finale of Season 2. Ahsoka does not appear in Season 3 of Star Wars Rebels, but she reappears in Season 4, Episodes 12 and 13, the World Between Worlds arc. I don't really want to spoil what these episodes are about in case you don't know, but the World Between Worlds seems like it possibly could have major implications on what happens in Ahsoka, so I would highly recommend you watch all of Season 4, but especially these episodes, to be in touch with what's going on in that show. And then finally is the finale of Star Wars Rebels, Season 4, Episode 15 and 16. I will not spoil Ahsoka's role in this because I don't want to give anything away, but let's just say regardless of Ahsoka's role, these episodes are extremely essential for setting up the placement for these characters in the galaxy prior to the Ahsoka series starting. These are incredible episodes, and I definitely recommend you check them out. After you finish Star Wars Rebels, you would jump on over to The Mandalorian. Ahsoka does not appear until Season 2, Episode 5, after being name-dropped in Season 2, Episode 3. Season 2, Episode 5, Chapter 13, The Jedi, features the first full appearance of Rosario Dawson's Ahsoka Tano. This episode is obviously essential to the story of Ahsoka. This is still my favorite episode of The Mandalorian, and I highly recommend you watch this if you somehow haven't. Season 2, The Mandalorian has been adapted multiple different ways. You can read it in the Mandalorian Season 2 junior novel. You can also read it in the Mandalorian Season 2 graphic novel, as well as the children's books The Path of the Force and Grogu's Journey. All of these feature Ahsoka. And then finally, the last thing you would watch prior to the Ahsoka series starting is the Book of Boba Fett, Season 1, Episode 6, From the Desert Comes a Stranger. This episode features Ahsoka briefly, but I would still say it is essential purely because it's the last time we've seen Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka prior to her appearance in the Ahsoka series. Nonetheless, it is my favorite episode of Star Wars live action TV, and if you haven't seen this or somehow haven't been spoiled by what's in this episode, oh my god, it is so good and so glorious, especially if you've been following the Clone Wars for a long time. Again, if you are into book adaptations, the Book of Boba Fett was adapted into the junior novel and does feature Ahsoka's moments from this episode. And that's it. The last thing you would watch is the Ahsoka series, which, if you're watching this video when it comes out, has not yet released, but the first 2 episodes will be releasing on August 23rd, and we will be covering the entirety of the show here on Star Wars Lads, as well as giving you a ton of Ahsoka prep stuff. If you're just finding us here with this video, you want to subscribe to the channel so you get all of that Ahsoka stuff. We do so many different things in every facet of YouTube here on Star Wars Lads, so make sure you're subscribing for polls, shorts, live streams, new videos, reviews, everything you could possibly think of in the world of Star Wars. And if you're finding this after the Ahsoka series came out or during the Ahsoka series release, make sure you're subscribed so you can check out our reviews every single morning after the episodes drop, as well as our predictions and speculation. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Make sure you're giving it a like, help me get to 50 likes on this video, and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.